I invented a fake twin to cover my second job. He ended up engaged to my coworker. I made up an identical twin brother to cover a second job. He got more popular than me, joined the company softball team, started dating my coworker, and got engaged to her, all while being a wig and a flannel shirt. Then HR pulled the badge footage. Confession: Reddit stories truestory. I need to get this off my chest because it's gotten so far out of hand that I've started forgetting which version of myself I'm supposed to be on any given day. 2 years ago I was broke and desperate, so I took a second full-time remote job under a fake name. Everybody was doing it. The internet told me it was easy, just don't get caught in 2 meetings at once. Except my first job wasn't fully remote. 2 days a week I had to be in office. So I panicked and told my manager I had an identical twin brother, Marcus, who sometimes covered my shifts when my chronic migraines flared up. I do not have a twin brother. I do not have migraines. I made up a whole human being out of pure financial terror. The first few months, Marcus was just a name on a sign-in sheet. Easy. Then my manager wanted to meet him. So I bought a cheap wig, grew out my stubble on purpose, spoke an octave lower, and showed up as my own twin for one lunch. It worked so well that people started asking about him constantly. Is Marcus coming to the holiday party? Marcus seemed quiet last time, is he okay? I had accidentally created a more popular version of myself who barely had to do anything to be beloved. Then my coworker Denise decided she had a crush on Marcus. Not me. Marcus. She started leaving little notes on my desk asking if he'd want to grab coffee sometime. I did the coffee. As Marcus. In the wig. In a coffee shop 3 blocks from my actual office, sweating through a flannel shirt that was absolutely too hot for the wig situation I had going on. Here's where it stopped being a harmless bit and became a structural problem. The company started a co-ed softball team, and because everyone loved Marcus so much, they specifically asked if he'd join too, alongside me, so we could be the twin battery, pitcher and catcher. I could not say no without raising suspicion, so for 4 months I was leaving games early as myself, changing in my car in a parking garage, and coming back 40 minutes later as Marcus, who had just gotten off his shift. I have never been more athletically exhausted playing a single sport in my life, and I was somehow also the worst player on the team twice. Denise and Marcus got serious. I want to be extremely clear that I let this happen. I let my coworker fall in love with a wig and a lower register voice because by that point pulling the plug felt more insane than continuing. She started talking about meeting his parents. I told her Marcus was estranged from our dad and it was a sensitive topic, which bought me some time, but she wanted to meet our mom, so I had to recruit my actual mother into this, and my mother, God bless her, thought it was the funniest thing she had ever heard and agreed immediately, no questions asked, like she'd been waiting her whole life to be an accomplice. 6 months into the Marcus relationship, Denise proposed. To Marcus. At a company trivia night. In front of the entire office. I said yes, because saying no in front of 40 coworkers holding trivia buzzers felt like a worse fate than becoming engaged to my own coworker as a fictional twin brother I invented to cover a payroll scheduling conflict. This is when HR got involved, but not for the reason you'd think. It wasn't about the twin thing. It was because Marcus didn't technically exist in the HR system as an employee, contractor, or approved building visitor, and the building's new security software flagged an unregistered badge swiper pattern under my access credentials on days he was supposedly clocked in elsewhere. They pulled footage. The footage showed one guy, me, walking into a parking garage bathroom in a collared shirt and walking out 40 minutes later in a wig and a flannel. HR could not initially figure out if I was having a breakdown, running a scam, or possibly being blackmailed by myself. I sat in that HR meeting and told them the entire truth in one unbroken sentence because I no longer had the energy to lie. Second job. Fake twin. Softball battery. Engagement. My mother agreeing to play along at a family dinner. The woman from HR put her pen down halfway through and just stared at me the way you'd look at a raccoon that had somehow learned to drive a car. They didn't fire me immediately, which shocked me more than anything else in this entire story, because apparently my actual work performance was fine and this fell into some gray area their policy manual had never anticipated. What they did do was require me to personally tell Denise the truth, with an HR representative present, for documentation and duty of care purposes. I had to sit across from a woman I had proposed to as a man who does not exist and explain that her fiancé was a wig, a voice, and roughly $200 in flannel shirts. Denise did not cry, which was somehow worse. She just nodded slowly and said, "So who caught the fly ball in the championship game, you or him?" And I had to admit it was me, both times, the whole season, every single play, and she said, "I knew Marcus couldn't catch for shit," and walked out, and that sentence haunts me more than the engagement did. The softball team still asks about Marcus sometimes, half joking, half not, because nobody in leadership ever formally announced what happened, they just quietly stopped putting his name on the roster. I still have the wig. I don't know why I still have the wig. I have thought about burning it in a symbolic ceremony and then remembered I live in an apartment with a very sensitive smoke detector and a strict no open flame policy in my lease. The second job eventually let me go for unrelated performance reasons, which honestly felt like a mercy killing at that point, because juggling 2 real jobs and 1 fictional sibling had turned my calendar into something closer to a hostage negotiation than a schedule. My mother still brings up the time she almost got a second son-in-law for free, at holidays, and my actual family now refers to that year as the Marcus era like it's a defined historical period with its own start and end dates. I saw Denise once at a mutual friend's barbecue 8 months later. She looked at me for a long moment and said, "Tell your brother he still owes me a batting average," and then got herself a plate of potato salad and never mentioned it again, and somehow that response unsettled me more than if she'd screamed. So that's it. That's the story. I invented a twin brother to hide a second job, fell into an entire relationship as him, got engaged to my own coworker while wearing a wig I bought for $12, got investigated by HR over a badge swipe anomaly, and lost that softball championship's MVP conversation to a man who has never once existed. I still have the wig in a shoebox in my closet, and some nights I genuinely consider putting it back on just to remember what it felt like to be the more likable one.